We're back in the bunker. We're back in the challenge house, if you want to call it a house. We're back on YouTube, back on SoundCloud, back on iTunes, or I guess it's called Apple Music now. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And my name is Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast about the challenge. We're picking up right where we left off with Total Madness. Literally, I don't know why, but I love it when they do this. We see the people coming back from the last elimination. And people are sort of taking stock of the situation that Jordan's gone, that Bear's gone. Starts with Wes and Bananas taking a lot of credit for throwing Jordan in. They're more focused on Jordan going in than Bear going in.
Yeah, they're feeling good. They're feeling good about their move. I mean, I was calling this early section the people that are feeling themselves, right? Like, yeah, Wes and Bananas are patting themselves on the back here. You got Fessy and Nelson doing the same thing. But in terms of Wes and Bananas, they took the shot at Jordan because they know that Jordan is a tough out. And they know that Jordan is a tough, like, foe to face in a finale. And part of our arguments, or what we were talking about last week, in terms of the argument between, you know, throwing in Corey against Fessy or Nelson, was, well, now you're empowering that other side, that Young Buck side, that are also tough outs. But as you say all the time, you're trying to get rid of what you know in terms of Jordan, as opposed to what you don't know. Like, yeah, Fessy is a beast, but who knows how he would do in a final? Who knows how he would do in, like, let's say a puzzle elimination, which maybe you could still throw him into or something. So it was interesting to see just how this all breaks down. And for Wes and Bananas, that's a good win for them. They made it to the halfway point and beyond. And especially for Bananas, who struggled the past few years, it's a pretty good look.
The other thing about getting rid of Jordan, to the benefit of the Young Bucks plus Fessy, I don't know if we can yet say that Fessy is part of Team Young Bucks.
I think he is.
But also, you can count on Nelson shooting himself in the foot. Right? Like, in terms of, like, known commodities, you can bank on Nelson turning the house against him, getting distracted by a woman or whatever. Like, there's certain things where you're like, where Jordan has such laser-like focus and intensity that, like, you not only do you have to take that shot when you have it, but it has to be a good shot. Like, you better not miss with Jordan.
Yeah.
And they took it. It was interesting hearing that Nelson, Corey, Fessy, and Maddie were really having the conversation. Yeah, it's an interesting group of people there. Corey and Maddie still need their red skulls, but still an interesting group. And also interesting that Kailah, like, walked into the sort of, like, kitchen workout space, saw who was talking, and turned around and left, and they, like, immediately noticed.
Yeah, and they're right.
And I gather
it is going to happen a lot, right?
Yeah, it is, because now she's sort of like, she's losing her friends, she's losing her boo, she has to sort of, like, sit with her conscience. She goes seemingly almost immediately back to her room, where Josh, I guess this was him starting to try to flip the house.
I don't know what Josh is doing. Josh is just being Josh. And let's be serious about something, right? Josh's role so far on this series and every one of his appearances on the challenge is just to be loud. Right? He's not really good at challenges. He doesn't really make it that far. Like, he's not really a threat to win. He just becomes loud, and he carries 2 or 3 episodes in the middle of the series by just being obnoxious and annoying. Right? He gives you, like, a 2 to 3 episode story arc of just causing chaos in the house. That's basically Josh's role. Does it have anything to do with actual gameplay? No, not really.
No.
But he'll tell you otherwise.
It's funny that you bring this up, because I was thinking, watching this episode, that although I dislike Josh, he makes for good television. Like, he's a good, like, mid-level antagonist. Because he's entertaining in his way. He's not entertaining the way Bear was. He's not entertaining the way Bananas or Wes are. Yeah. He's entertaining because he's like the straw that stirs the drink, for better or for worse.
And the thing is, in all forms of media, right? It's, are you entertaining? Do you make the people watching you feel something? And Josh definitely invokes a reaction, right? When you're watching him, it might not be a positive reaction, but hey, we're still watching and invoking. We have some reaction to him.
One of the things that I know that you're a Big Brother watcher. I don't really watch Big Brother. And one of the reasons why I stopped watching Big Brother, and this is like so nitpicky, but everyone that gets on that show seems to think that in confessional you have to shout. So like my imitation of anyone on Big Brother
That's fair.
is when they're in confessional, I have to go do this now, or whatever, and like it drives me wild because I'm like, you're in you're just speaking to camera in an empty room by yourself. You could just speak with a normal tone of voice.
You're right.
Josh seems to be in that mood all the time.
Yeah. So the Big Brother thing, right? You're totally right. But the reason why it's like that is because there's literally nothing else going on the show. So the confessionals actually drive the entire episode. It's the narrator for everything, even so much more than this show, because, there's actual conversations or more conversations that are had. There's like club scenes. There's like just different scenarios where people are just having conversation that could drive the storyline. Whereas in Big Brother, for the most part, all of the real narration or real storylines are all driven through the confessionals.
Yeah.
But with that said, Josh is still annoying.
Oh, he's very annoying. And one of the things I loved is while he is talking game with Kailah and Nany, Swaggy and Bailey are chatting with Wes. And Swaggy, gently suggests that maybe Josh is on to the fact that they're an alliance. He sort of reconstructs the narrative, which... fair play to Swaggy, I understand. And Wes immediately goes, he's talking to the entire Holy Trinity right now. And Swaggy's like, yeah. And he's like, the women I've known for 10 years and that I'm friends with. And Swaggy was like, yeah. And Wes is like, it'll be okay.
And here's the biggest point. Josh doesn't matter. So the fact that Josh is talking about, he's going to flip the house. Well, he doesn't have the power to flip the house, for one. Two, this was a cool dynamic to watch occur because Josh, even though he might be making sense, right? Like, hey, I got the tea that Swaggy and Bailey are really working with Wes, and Swaggy spilled the secrets to me, and Josh is right with the info, and he goes to the other side of the house, and he's right, and it makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, when you really break this down, okay, if you had the chance, if you're in the challenge house, you, Mr. John Chidley Hill, are inside the challenge house, and you come in the house, you were on Big Brother, so you come into the house thinking, hey, I'm going to align with Big Brother people, and one of those people is Josh. But then as you get into the house, you realize that, you kind of relate more. You're speaking on the same wavelength. You're vibing with Wes. Who are you going to be aligned with more so in the house? Josh or Wes?
Obviously Wes.
And everybody would make that decision. Even if there were two Joshes and Josh had a twin brother that was also in the house, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that Josh's twin brother would also rather work with Wes than work with Josh in the house.
Yeah.
So it was such a weird thing to watch play out, but at the same time, it's funny just because it's Josh. And I'm sure even Kailah and Nany, as much as they might like Josh as a person, for their game, this does nothing.
Well, and part of the problem with Josh is the sales job he's making to them to try to flip the houses. Well, he's coming for me next. Which, first of all, there is zero evidence to suggest that Wes is coming for Josh next. In fact, the evidence where Wes said in front of many people, Josh, I am never going to say your name, and had opportunities to throw Josh in and has passed him up. Like, also, if you're sitting there, you're Kailah and Nany, and Jenna, like the Holy Trinity, and Josh says, he's coming for me next.
So?
The next thing he says, so? Right? Like, they have no stake in your success, Josh.
Josh had himself an episode, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Oh, we will.
And, because, especially because really, when you break it down, Josh was the biggest storyline in this episode, Josh and Swaggy. There's not really much going on in this episode, right? And then...
No, it's a lot of political talk.
Yeah. And speaking of said political talk, as we find out, obviously Jenny got her skull early on, and she had to beat Jenny, right? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Jen had to beat Jenny.
Jenny beat Jen.
Jenny beat Jen, sorry.
We're doing right. So well. Your confusion.
Hold on, it took how many episodes for me to mess up the Jenny, Jenna, right? Like, that's the first time I've done that. So I'm quite...
You did well.
Quite proud of myself. But...
I'm just glad that Kaylee's not in the house, because then we'd have Jen, Jenny, Jenna, Kailah, and KC.
And Nany.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Craziness. But, so, Jenny, right? Jenny is a target. And why is Jenny a target? Sometimes it just comes from the places you'd least expect. Her own friend D, out of the blue, out of nowhere, unprompted, no reason. She's talking to Rogan, and she sits there with Rogan and she says, you know what? I'm thinking that I want to throw Jenny in because she's a strong player and I don't want to go against her in a final. Rogan seems thrown off by this, as he should be, as I was. What was your reaction when this conversation started? Because to be honest, mine was just simply, D's the worst.
D is the worst. This was the scene where D leapfrogged Rogan as being the worst. The only thing I would say in my people I hate on this show, I'd say that Nelson is still my least favorite person on the show.
Okay.
He did something on Twitter last night that I thought was really shitty and disgusting.
I missed it.
And I guess I'll bring it up at a later point.
Okay.
And you killed it. But in terms of... And then, Josh I find super annoying. But at least Josh has, I guess, a moral compass.
Okay.
I don't agree with Josh's decision-making. And I think he's paranoid and emotional and tiresome. But D is, a different kind of dumb. And, a worse kind of dumb. And manipulative and in her own way paranoid. And just so you asked what my reaction was. The challenge posts clips on Instagram all day leading up to the episode. So I had watched this scene on my phone before I actually
saw
watching
the episode.
Yeah.
I got you.
And as it happened, as I watched it, I was like, God fucking damn it, D. What are you doing?
Yeah.
On so many levels, this is stupid and the wrong play.
And even if it is something that, because at its core, okay, I understand you might not want to face her in a final. So on one level, I can understand that. Definitely right now is not the time to make that move.
But D was also, the sequence of events is important.
Of course.
D decided to put Jenny in against Jen instead of Tori.
Correct.
Pissing off Tori and Jordan.
Correct.
More so Jordan. And I know they're out of the house, but the likelihood of D playing against Jordan and Tori at some later date on some later season is super high.
Correct.
Even if Jordan and Tori never come back on the show, which is doubtful, I'm sure they'll be back. everyone has seen that she did that.
Yeah.
That she broke her word. And she said, Jenny's my number one.
She did.
What is this? Like 4 weeks later, she's like, now I'm scared of Jenny. Which is what everyone said at the time.
For sure.
And Rogan, I mean, you're like in the wrong when Rogan is making points.
Yeah. When I was watching it and Rogan's making points, I'm like, wow, I agree with Rogan here a lot.
Like, Rogan's 100% right when he says, you say that I'm your number one and Jenny's your number one for each respective gender. You're sitting here telling me that you want to throw in your number one woman. Like, why wouldn't you throw me in? Like,
yeah.
Like, how am I supposed to trust you? And then I think my favorite part was Dee's like, yeah, like, I might just be crazy enough to do it. The question is, would you help me? And Rogan is like, no, I will not help you. Like, this is a bad idea. And it's not just that it's a bad idea for all the reasons that we spoke about. But if Dee makes any rumblings about Jenny going in, everyone's going to, like, be on to Rogan. Yeah. Everyone's going to say, I thought Jenny was your number one. That's fucked up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
No one's going to have her back on this.
And on top of this,
and Jenny's really well liked.
Yeah. On top of her mistake is that you're telling Rogan this, thinking that you and Rogan are all good. And you're not. Right? So you guys have found a way to play nice, but on top of that, while you guys continue to just play nice, Rogan is clearly just pretending. She might still have a thing for him, right? She was trying to get Rogan jealous because of Jay and all that, and cool, we get that. Rogan just decided that the easier path for him was just to play nice with Dee. But he's not all in on Dee. He doesn't even really care. So that's where her next mistake is, confiding in Rogan and thinking that Rogan isn't going to go open his mouth. Because of course he's going to go open his mouth because it's Rogan. And he doesn't trust you. Yeah. But anyways.
And he has every reason to not trust her.
Exactly.
Because she also just finished saying, I'm going to throw in my number one. Also, you're one of my number ones. Like,
exactly.
Just... so dumb.
Well, I was going to say, might not be the number one competitor, but definitely the number one person in your heart. Big T.
Poor Big T.
Poor Big T. I mean, we kind of knew this was going to happen, but it's always still weird to see when it actually does happen. And the thing that was cool was you saw how beloved she is by the rest of the cast. Right? Like, everyone was, like, rushing to, like, hug her. I think you saw, like, Mel with some tears as Big T was leaving.
Wes looked upset.
Yeah. Right? You could tell that she was really well liked within the house. So that was a tough way to go out. And especially someone who finally came out of their shell and opened up personality-wise, but also just came in with a different mentality to actually play the game. And I think that part of it, you know, it kind of makes you wonder and hope to see her back. Because you got a glimpse of a character within the house, but also someone who isn't afraid and who actually wants to play the game a little. So that was tough to see Big T get kicked off. And then when you break down why she got kicked off, you know, because she, like, slipped off the bed and sliced her toe, it's like, that really sucks. That's a tough one.
She was clearly in better shape than her first season.
Yeah.
As you said, she's beloved. She's still trying to figure out the political game. Mm-hmm. But I hope we see Big T back.
I assume so.
And I'll also say, I understand why they had to say that she was no longer medically cleared, because they challenged the daily competition they were doing, Tunnel Rats, would have been the literal worst thing to do with, like, a fresh open wound. Like, yeah. It would have, like, she would have gotten an infection.
But she still might have done better than Josh's team.
Yeah. So let's talk about what they had to do.
Yeah.
So the daily competition, as I said, was Tunnel Rats. Mm-hmm. As I said on, I think it was the preview episode that you and I did, this is clearly not actually a sewer system, but a cistern, which is where you store water for drinking. So it's water that has not been filtered but it's going to be filtered. They have to drop into these holes, which I think it was D or Melissa actually did, DJ Mel, that is, did the thing that I was worried would happen, and that is they're hanging from bars, and then they have to let go and drop through this hole, and I forget, one of them hit their elbows on the way down.
I think it was Mel. And the way that the way they shot that was super cool too, because it was kind of like they edited it in slow motion, and it was just really cool how they put that together. Because she was super.
She was. So they have to drop into this chamber, I guess, into pretty deep water, where there's 5 puzzle pieces per team. They have to gather their puzzle pieces, swim to like the end of the chamber, climb up this thing, run through the tunnels carrying the puzzle, and then it's a standard sort of like puzzle that they have to put together. And I think that the significant thing that we have to talk about is that Swaggy, who Josh is swearing that he's going to get rid of, and Josh are on the same team. And Swaggy falls into the water and immediately
panics.
Yeah. Like in Anissa's words, and Anissa's been around the block, I've never seen the divers have to save someone so fast.
I mean, yeah, you can kind of understand it. They mentioned how cold the water was. Yeah. If you're afraid of heights, and if you're... Because there's a difference between being able to swim and then being comfortable in the water, right? Like there's a huge difference there, right? I think that if you can swim but you're not comfortable in the water, dropping in from that high and it's dark, which is another thing that I think, you know, because we're seeing it through the lens of a camera that obviously has a light above it, doesn't really lead us to see how dark it would be from the perspective of the competitors. Do you know what I mean? That's a whole other thing that we wouldn't really be able to comprehend. So I think that part was kind of odd. But either way, you add in the heights, you add in the cold water, you add in the darkness, you add in the fact that you almost land on other people. And yeah, Swaggy was panicked. And Anissa's joke, you know, she added in, and he's wearing a life jacket, which again, that tells you how much he's panicking, because if you just know that you're wearing a life jacket, you know that you can't drown. Or let me rephrase that. You have to try really hard to drown in a life jacket. So
I do have a question for you.
Okay.
How panicked do you think Swaggy was? Like, for real?
So I was going to ask you this. This is one of my questions. Like, do you think he was trying to throw it?
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. I wonder if he looked at who was on his team and knew that his crew was going to be beefing with Josh, saw that his wife and his closest ally were on other teams, and thought, you know what? Maybe I don't need to really give it my all. Maybe I can just take myself out of this one. It did cross my mind.
Here's the thing, though. Again, though, so the medic saved him really quickly. I also just think their team had a bad strategy. Because, I mean, Josh was the one they set out to go twice. But if you remember in the first go-around, Nelson couldn't swim, right? Yeah. So Nelson got his, and then he passed it off to, was it Jenny, I think, to whoever, it doesn't matter. He passed it off to another one of his teammates, and then Fessy went and, like, helped Nelson swim back. The point I'm making here is, as Swaggy, you didn't even have to, like, swim the whole way. Meaning, as Josh, you don't have to do the whole thing. You could have split it in half, had someone else help. Like, the strategy that they went about it was just terrible anyways. And then on top of that, the puzzle, I mean, even if Swaggy is throwing it, that doesn't change the fact that Josh was just horrible at putting together the puzzle. So did Swaggy help the team? Probably not. But they were pretty screwed regardless.
I love the scene with Josh trying to solve the puzzle because Anissa, who is super good at puzzles, like it's her greatest strength. He's like, Anissa keeps interrupting me. Like, no, you keep interrupting Anissa. Like, get out the way, bud.
Yeah.
And
well, Josh, this was like, I don't know if Josh was like, I've been too quiet so far. So all of a sudden he gets to this episode and he's thinking, all right, this is going to be the Josh episode. Here I am. Because even just before they went, he's like pounding his chest, like hyping himself up. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like, what's going on right now? It was so weird. And I even liked the chirp that Wes gave. What did Wes call him? Called him like a Ninja Turtle or something? Like,
yeah.
It was just
I love
funny.
that Johnny started chirping him and said, like, Josh, that puzzle piece you have in your hand, it has to go in the puzzle. Because Josh is so easily rattled. Like, Johnny shouting that got Josh to like stop and look at him for like 10 seconds.
And you never see that happen, right? When do you ever see that happen in a challenge where, because they're always chirping, but the people involved never are paying attention. But they were here. But here's a tension where it builds between Swaggy and Josh, because Josh is just blatantly calling out Swaggy and saying that, you know, Swaggy costed them, even though Josh was the one struggling to put together the puzzle. So you could even argue that as much as Swaggy slowed them down with the swim, Josh slowed them down with the puzzle. But that's not how Josh is seeing it, is it?
No, it's not. I did want to say, this is my moment where I'm going to say something nice about Nelson.
Okay.
Who continues to be one of the worst people on this show. But I will give him credit because he mentioned that he's been taking swimming lessons in the off season.
Yeah.
And I respect the fact that he's working on the weaknesses in his game.
Yeah, I agree. That was my nice thing to say about Nelson as well.
Yeah, like, and I will say that, like, I believe that swimming is a life skill, and so, like, good on him for, like, improving himself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other ways that he should be improving himself, like learning to respect women and maybe seeing a therapist about some of the issues he's clearly harboring.
Yep.
But I will say, good on you, Nelson, for working on your swimming. Not just for the purpose of the show, but like I said, it's a life skill. So
yeah,
that's my nice thing about Nelson.
Agreed. And, you know, I think I wrote down my nice thing to say about Nelson is he's taking swimming now. I was about to say he's taking swimming Nelsons. That's what I was about to say. My nice thing to say about Nelson, though, is that he's taking swimming lessons. Can he swim? No, but he tried.
Yeah.
That's my nice thing to say about Nelson. He tried.
He tried. So Wes's team wins.
So hold on. One thing, though, that's kind of important, that's not really important, but I need to make fun of Josh because I'm going to use every chance I get to make fun of Josh in this episode.
Okay.
He freaks out at the end, right? Like when his team finishes, he's getting so mad again, and Maddie has to be the voice of reason, and she's just like, dude, chill out, calm down. And she says, why are you even getting this mad when it's a women's elimination anyways?
Yeah.
And he doesn't really have a good answer because it's a great question. And yeah, as you mentioned, as we move on, Bailey, Nani, Corey, D, and Wes are the winners. And my first thought, John, was there aren't that many women to choose from going forward.
No, the numbers are narrowing down. Like, it's getting to the point where people have to put people in who are in their alliance or their friends.
Yeah. But
right, especially with double eliminations, especially with a tribunal of 5 people, like someone is not going to be able to advocate for their alliance member or their friend or their partner or whatever.
Yeah, one thing I think that's really cool is, and I should have said this off the top, because to me this is the theme of the episode. Huge salute to the women on this show, because I think they were playing the game as the producers intended this season to be played. Meaning, all these women want the smoke. So, as we mentioned, right, there's only so many people that you can choose from, but it didn't matter because the majority of the girls wanted to go in. And I thought that was super refreshing and just a different angle to see, because the guys, it was a complete opposite. You might have, Jordan wanted to go in, but for the most part, it wasn't that game at all, right? And I think seeing how it went for Fessy last week and seeing, okay, well, I might as well just go in when I want to go in, because you got to go in at some point. So, and you're getting closer and closer to the end. I just love that how many of the women stepped up to say, no, I want to go in. Even with Dee trying to play her games where she thinks she's being a master strategist and letting Nany and Bailey kind of say Jenny's name without saying Jenny's name. And I love that Nany called her out. Like, oh, she thinks she's slick, but yeah, we're on to you.
Don't you think that the strategy for Dee at this point should be like, I guess there's no catching up to Jenny in terms of fitness, but like,
just lay low.
Just have faith that like you're both going to the final and you can let the chips fall where they may.
Here's the thing. Her strategy should be to lay low and not give anyone a reason to throw you back into an elimination, because you already have your skull. So just sit back and don't ruffle any feathers and, take your shot in the final. Don't give people a reason. And someone who did give people a reason was Jenna. We see her going to call Zach. Zach's not answering the phone. She says that then she's telling Kailah about it, or Nany, I think it is. And she says she doesn't blame him because she's the one that fucked up. Now, did she give him all her passwords and all that to go through? No. But she understands. And at this point, I'm with Nany. I'm just overhearing Jenna whine about Zach. Like, I get it. Either just leave or don't leave. But I don't want to hear about it anymore. And that's me watching a TV show. I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be in the house and be at that situation where you're just hearing her over and over again discuss her issues and problems with Zach.
Well, we see that later on, too.
Oh, yes, we do.
Where... after the nomination ceremony, and we got to talk about the nomination ceremony, but we're on the topic of Jenna, so bear with me here. Johnny and Jenna are speaking at the club much further on in the episode, and she's basically complaining about the situation, and she's mad at Johnny because he made a comment about how Jenna's checked out.
Yeah.
And Johnny's totally right. He says, you need to stop putting that energy in the air. Like, people, it's a topic because you're making it a topic.
Correct. Don't give people a reason.
Process it internally. Don't give people a reason. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
The tribunal is going to be Bailey, Nany, Corey, Dee, and Wes after they win Tunnel Rats.
Yes.
Which, of course, they do, because it's a competition where Wes has to swim and solve a puzzle, which are the two things he does best. Yeah,
if there was odds makers and you could bet on who was going to win that challenge, that would have been a safe bet.
So they nominate... we have the nomination ceremony, the voting ceremony.
Which was super low-key, first off.
Yeah.
For once.
Because before anyone can say anything, Casey is like, I'd like to go in. Mm-hmm. Does anyone object to that? And everyone's like, no, that's okay. And then Anise is like, I would also like to go in. Is that okay with everybody? And everyone's like, that's okay. And then there's a moment that like spurred on a question for me. Mm-hmm. And that is Josh starts saying like, here's what's going to happen. The tribunal is going to put in really tough competition because you're both really good. And there's a moment where Rogan is like, oh yeah, tell us more, Josh. And it made me wonder, and I noted down, Sheldon, do you think everyone in the house is also kind of sick of Josh?
Of course. Because there's people who talk, and then there's people who talk to just hear their own voice. And Josh is one of the people who just talks to hear his own voice. I'm I really, really think that Josh's strategy on the challenge is to be quiet in the beginning to ensure that he makes it through the first couple episodes. Then he's just going to start arguing with people and just start talking and trying to start fights just so that he becomes a story arc in the middle of the season before ultimately getting eliminated because he's not good at the challenge. And we're just in this point. I swear, if we read Josh's diary, it would be like, okay, this is about episode 7 or 8. I think I need to have my run of looking like a fool. Because what is he even talking about? Because as we just mentioned, the numbers are dwindling anyways. So the amount of people, there was only one person's name who didn't have to be mentioned at all. One. So is it that far-fetched to think that if you're one of the girls, you would just say, you know what? Just throw me in anyways. I want to go in. I want to be I'd rather go in mentally prepared to go in than to have to go down there and sit and wait and then beg for votes and then see who they're going to vote in and then see what the challenge is. Like, I'd rather just be like, no, I want to go in. I want to get my skull. Put me in right now. I don't care who I'm going in, because I think that also sends a message to everyone else that I don't even care who I'm going in against. So
yeah,
if we can sit on our couches and understand that, how can't Josh? Like, how is Josh's theory, which doesn't make sense again, you think the tribunal is going to give you what you want? Well, they're not. They haven't said what they want, because they just said they don't care. They want to go in. That's why they're volunteering. There's not someone that they want to go in against. They just want to go in the elimination. So Josh's whole point makes no sense. He's frustrating. And we haven't even gotten to the most frustrating part yet.
No, we have not. And I can't wait to talk about that.
Oof.
So, we have a very smart scene.
Okay.
Where Rogan and Jenny are outside at the smokers
table. Hold on. Can I ask you one question, though, before we skip ahead? Banana says credit to the girls for making him look like a wussy. Like, you can tell he's saying it kind of in jest, but he also kind of means it. Like, he applauds their strength for saying, hey, I want to go in. His strategy is just obviously way different. Do you think this should change the guys' point of view in terms of how they've been going at it so far? Because most of the guys have been like, no, I don't want to go in.
Yeah. I do. And, like, the only one who wanted to go in was CT. Mm-hmm. And, like, I say this, like, every episode of You Killed It. But, like, and Fessy wanted to go in. But that's the right strategy, right? Like, you need the Red Skull, and it's only getting tougher.
Yeah.
Like, I like Bear as a competitor. I almost said I like Bear as a person, which is too far. But, like, Bear, in terms of who's the toughest out, is, in my mind, one of the lower ones.
Agreed.
Like, right now, I'd say Josh and maybe Swaggy are the weakest.
Okay.
And, like, there's only so many Joshes and Swaggies and Bears and even Jays out there.
Yeah.
Right, like, eventually you're going to get a Corey or a Wes or a Johnny.
Yeah.
And, like, it's a problem. Like those are not easy guys to beat by any stretch. So you want to go against a Bear or I'm blanking on his name, or a Josh or a Swaggy.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
no, for sure. So it's going to be interesting. I want to see what happens next week. But sorry, we were moving ahead and I interrupted you. You're setting up D getting exposed as Rogan goes to Jenny and spills the tea, as the kids say.
Yeah. First of all, I love that D was like, don't tell anyone this. And he, not immediately, but he quickly tells the person who he most definitely should not be telling. Although it's, to Rogan's credit, it's a game move. Mm-hmm. And in confessional, he's like, listen, I can't have any fun while D is here. Like, she is raining on my parade. I don't trust her.
Who is Rogan trying to have fun with?
See, that's what I want to know.
Maybe we'll find out later.
Maybe we'll find out. We'll see how this all pans out for him. But he is totally right and goes to Jenny, and Jenny is deeply offended and hurt and makes the point that's very fair. Jenny has a lot of integrity, and she's not going to put up with someone not treating her with that same kind of integrity.
Yeah. Agreed.
And Rogan actually makes a really good point to her where he says, hey, don't cause a fuss right now. Lay low, because right now Dee's in the tribunal and she has the power.
Yeah.
So don't cause a fuss.
Yeah.
Play it cool. Next week, next time there's a women's elimination, you and I will win, and then we'll throw her in.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do.
It's a good plan.
And sound plan, sound strategy. Keep it a tight circle.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they go to the club, the bar, which
looks
nice.
A new club.
A new club. No longer the hangar.
Yeah.
What's it called? Nebe?
I don't remember. I was just too excited about it being a new club that I didn't even take note of what the club's name was.
I gotta say, shout out to this season for having arguably the nicest looking bars and clubs they've been to in a long time. Shout out to the Czech Republic where they know how to party.
This was a nice spot.
A nice spot. Interesting that it seems like they were the only ones in the club.
Yes.
Like it's not, there was clearly a private booking, probably like a Tuesday night or something. Mm-hmm. And two significant things happen. Let's start with the smaller one. And that is, Jenny, who is friends with Dee, notices that Dee is avoiding her, not making eye contact.
Yeah.
Lending credence to what Rogan said to her. Because, like, if Dee had been friendly, Jenny maybe would have had, like, that doubt in her mind where she's like, okay, Rogan's, like, lying to me. He's playing some sort of manipulative game. But the fact that Dee is staying way the fuck away from her friend Jenny and, like, being weird, weird body language, Jenny's like, okay, something definitely is up.
Yeah.
The mistake that Jenny makes is that she starts sort of talking about it. And I'm not saying it blows up this episode.
No.
But, like, she could have kept a lid on it.
And she said, someone told me. Someone told me. That's what she said. Because, you know, this obviously leads right into the Swaggy and Josh argument. But while Jenny's rambling about Dee, she's like, does she trust me? Is she going to throw me in? And Swaggy or someone says, nah, Dee wouldn't do that. That's your friend. And she's like, well, that's not what someone told me. And it's like, okay.
Not great.
Then we get the Josh, and because Josh and Bananas are talking about people being fake, and then Swaggy just jumps in and calls Josh a hypocrite. So let's break this down, right? Because we'll say that Swaggy started this, from what we saw, for no reason, right? If we're to believe Bananas, that Bananas and Josh were talking about something, and then Swaggy just jumped in and called Josh a hypocrite. Okay, cool. Swaggy, you're wrong there, okay? Josh then sees a camera, sees that it's his moment to shine, and they just start going back and forth, and I'm going to be really honest with you. I wrote down, I have no idea what they're arguing about right now. Because they were just like yelling back and forth at each other, but not really saying anything. I guess they were calling each other fake. You're not fake. Or I'm not fake. You're fake. You're phony. You're a liar. You're this. And it was just like, wait, what is the actual argument about right now? It was so odd that they were just going back and forth. So I don't know.
I think I can explain it.
Okay.
I think I have insight.
Like, I know what's underlying, but I'm saying directly right here in the moment what they were saying at each other. Like, Josh didn't say, hey, you pretended to be my friend, but now you're going behind my back, and now you're working with Wes, and everybody knows it. That would have been an argument that we'd be able to follow along with and be like, sure. Josh, I understand why you're mad.
For sure, but here's the thing. And this is one of the many problems that there are with Josh.
Okay.
The original disagreement is, as you said, as Johnny said, Johnny and Josh are talking about how everyone is fake in the house. Mm-hmm. Swaggy says, Josh, you're a hypocrite because you're fake. Josh takes umbrage with that. He doesn't like it. Fair. And starts shouting about it. And Swaggy says, hey man, you don't have to shout about it. Like, you're always like this.
Yes.
Don't shout.
Yeah.
And so then the argument shifts.
Yeah.
Where it's really about, should Josh be shouting like this? Mm-hmm. And Bailey and Swaggy are like, you don't need to shout right now, bro. And everyone else is saying, like, calm down, Josh. And Josh is getting more and more heated. And I think part of the problem is, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I think Josh has been told his entire life to calm down. So I think that when he gets told to calm down, he gets more heated.
Yeah.
Because he's like, everyone always fucking tells me to calm down. I don't need to calm down. And I will say this, for all of Josh's many faults, mm-hmm. I would not say he's fake. I would say he is genuine to a fault. Like, I think it would work to Josh's advantage if he was more fake.
Interesting.
Like, he speaks what he's feeling, what he's thinking all the time.
Interesting.
Regardless of what anyone, regardless of who's around, who's listening, what impact it might have on him, Josh says what he's saying, what he's thinking, what he's feeling.
Interesting.
I think it's bad that he does it, but like I can't say that he's fake.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because to me, Swaggy he was antagonizing Josh, right? Josh is getting more mad, and then Swaggy's route in arguing with Josh or to combat Josh was to play the role of, why are you being so loud? I'm talking to you normally, and you're getting more mad, which I get and I understand, but also Swaggy knows what he's doing in the moment, right? And so Josh being fake, Swaggy being fake, they're going back and forth. But the turning point here, which again, I might kind of blame Swaggy, when you get up and walk away while calling someone a pussy, you might be the one trying to escalate things to the next level and start a fight. Okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say Swaggy's in the wrong. You should not call someone a pussy and walk away, because to me, that's you instigating the fight, but then de-escalating it at the same time. Like, I'm supposed to sit there and take you calling me a pussy while you just walk away. So I'm going to blame Swaggy there. But then, in an even worse move, and I rewound it, because not until Maddie said it, I didn't even notice that Josh did it. But Josh, as Swaggy's walking away, grabs his drink and throws his drink at Swaggy as Swaggy's walking away. And I didn't even notice it at first. I had to rewind it and be like, wow, that is actually what he did. Which is the wackest move ever. Ever. You throw the drink, and on top of that, threw the drink as my guy's walking away, then waited for security to come, stood back to let security get in between the two of you, and then started yelling. Yeah, I want to be clear. I agree with you that Swaggy was purposely antagonizing Josh, mm-hmm. which is also shooting fish in a barrel. Like, it's very easy to antagonize Josh. But also, the way Josh conducted himself was completely out of hand. Yeah. And completely, not necessary. Nobody could calm him down. He stood on the bar to scream at him. And, I forget who it was. I think it was Rogan said, well, now we're never coming back to this bar. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get invited back. It, sucks. Right? They are in a literal bunker with no windows. Yeah. They're only allowed outside to do competitions and for smoke breaks. Mm-hmm. And you just, got us essentially booted out of a super nice bar that we had to ourselves. But it's not even just that. It's when Swaggy's calling Josh fake, this is the fake part of Josh. Right? You're yelling and screaming now, pretending like you want to fight, when you can see my guy being held back by 3 security guards, right? You threw the drink at him as he was walking away, then waited for security to get in between. If you throw the drink as you're going to go fight him, it's still a soft move, But at least you're not waiting for security for the hold me back special. But Josh would just straight hold me back. Standing on the bar yelling made absolutely no sense. And then Swaggy gave me my line of the episode here, where Swaggy in his confessional says, Josh is a 6'1" marshmallow. The fact that he threw a drink at me and then hid behind security is the bitchiest thing he could have done. And I would like to emphasize that, in the wise words of Jay-Z, not a bitch in the sense of having a pussy, but a pussy having no goddamn sense. Meaning, not as in female. Right? Just lamest, wackest thing you could possibly do if you're Josh. It's so true. You threw a drink at him and then hid behind security. And like 6'1" marshmallow, it's a pretty good chirp.
It's funny because my line of the episode was at around the same point when Rogan says to the bar, anyone that can handle their drink, do you want a shot?
It was good.
Which was hilarious. Yeah. And also made a fair point that, we, a few minutes ago, were giving credit to Nelson. That he worked on his swimming in the offseason.
Hold on. Where was Nelson in the bar? I don't even remember seeing Nelson in the bar. But anyways.
I think he was there. I think he was just, hanging out.
My bad.
There's a lot of people we didn't see a ton of Wes. We sort of saw Wes react.
Yeah.
But, we didn't see a lot of, I guess we had a small scene with Nani and Anissa and Casey in the bar. But, there's a lot of people we didn't see a lot of.
Yeah.
But Rogan is sort of alluding to a fair point about Josh. Josh is an emotional person at the best of times.
Correct.
But he's worse when he drinks. And I'm not saying that he has a drinking problem, but I am saying maybe he should consider how he interacts with alcohol when he's on this show. Because it's not to his benefit. It's just adding fuel to the fire. And, in terms of, the off-season, because, there's no way Josh wins this season. If, do you remember, I think the first time we had Wes on You Killed It, he told us how he would go back and basically take notes. Not just on how he played the game, but how he conducted himself as a human being. And, learned from them, and, it helped his growth and maturity.
For sure.
Josh should be doing that. Josh now has a season of Big Brother. This is his third season of the challenge?
Something like that.
Josh, in all sincerity, should be going back, rewatching these episodes and be like, you know what? Maybe people have a point. Maybe I do get too emotional. Maybe, although my feelings might be valid, I need to find healthier ways to express them. Maybe getting drunk and standing on a bar and shouting at people isn't the way I want to present myself.
But I'm going to say this. I'm playing devil's advocate because I don't know Josh at all. But you're correct if you're playing with the assumption that Josh is here actually trying to win the challenge. Which I'm sure everybody goes on trying to win the challenge, but I'm just saying there's levels to that. And I think Josh is way more focused in on trying to be on TV than he is trying to win the challenge. Because, just think of different people. As you mentioned, Wes is a great example. CT is a great example. Even Nani, who had a setback in this season. But for the most part, we've seen them. Anissa is another example. The more and more they come on the show, the less antics there are, and the more focused or the more chill and laid back it is, because they're just worried about the game. And anything that doesn't actually involve the game, arguments that doesn't involve that, no time for it really. And I just think Josh is the opposite, because all we've seen from him every single season is his nature of just, I'm going to start arguments. I'm going to, play as if I'm running the house and I'm leading the votes, which ultimately just leads to him getting into arguments and proving that he's not really running anything. As opposed to if he was just quiet He could play his position in the background, and he could float pretty close to a final if he didn't cause trouble. But he's Josh.
Jordan Reginato asks, why is there more male drama than female drama during female elimination weeks?
As I said, I think it was just Josh's time. He saw Nelson getting too much shine, and he thought, hey, I gotta make a comeback here. That's my theory.
Yeah. I think there's some credence to that. I also think that a big part of both Josh and Nelson's mentality is they have a lot of insecurities and they want to feel empowered. And in female elimination weeks, they have no power.
Yeah.
Because it's not about them.
Mm-hmm.
And so because they're feeling helpless and insecure and vulnerable, they act out because they're trying to empower themselves in any way they can.
Yeah.
Whereas a more secure person, like we always use Wes and Bananas as examples, but let's use a Fessy as an example. Mm-hmm. Fessy seems like a secure guy, secure dude. He's not concerned.
No, not at all.
Because he's content.
And he's focused on the game.
Yeah.
The game of winning, sorry.
Speaking of the game, we have the tribunal. They select Jenny, Kailah, Jenna, and Melissa. And their reasoning's interesting. Jenny, as we suggested, at Dee's bidding is being brought in. Mm-hmm. Kailah has made it clear that she wants to go in and get a Red Skull.
Correct.
Jenna, there's all the talk that she's checked out mentally. And Corey says, and I like how Corey's been using the tribunal when he wins, he uses it as an opportunity to speak game.
Yep.
Where he can have frank conversations with people he doesn't know well. Mm-hmm. And so with Melissa, he says, I don't know Melissa.
Yeah.
I'd like to, and everyone's like, yeah, that's fair. Like, let's air out where Melissa stands. And I like how he basically says that to her.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, well, you know what? I'll make you a priority. And he rightly says, hold on, though. You and Kyle are very good friends. And he, lists all the people, all the guys she's tight with. He's like, that puts me around 7th.
It was a good...
I don't know that you have anything to offer me.
Yeah, it was a good back and forth. And she said, I'm going to be honest with you. I can at least be a number. If you want to go into the elimination, I can at least promise to be a number for you. And if you're Corey, you got to take that. Because he wants to go in next week, or it sounds like he does anyways. So if you're Corey, you got to take that from Mel. I found it interesting, though, just how this all broke down. And even Jenny, the only question I had out of the nominations, or out of the, what is this? Yeah, nomination ceremony, or whatever, the deliberation, whatever we want to call this, was, did Jenny expose her lack of a social game?
Well, I want to make a distinction. I think Jenny has excellent social game. I think she's one of the most liked people. She has terrible political game.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Because you're right, she just rambled. I even wrote down, what is she talking about? I didn't understand, and I'm not, carving her on her accent. I mean, the content of what she was saying.
Yeah.
Nowhere in that rambling answer.
Totally agree.
We are all dumber. For all she had to say was listen, I'm surprised I'm here. Mm-hmm. I have a Red Skull already. I think we all know that I am a physically dominant competitor. And if you put me into purgatory, I'm coming back.
Yes, just take a page out of Fessy's book. You could put me in if you want, but just know chances are I'm coming back, and I'll be coming after you.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah, totally.
That's fine. And also maybe accentuate hey, I like and respect all of you. I thought, D, you and I are friends, and then say less.
Did you notice that Weston talk?
Yeah.
I found that interesting.
But that is so smart though.
Yeah, there's no need to.
That is smart gameplay.
There's no need to. Yeah, there's no need to. I understand that. So we get to the purgatory. right? And right off the bat, you can't really tell what the challenge is. But before that, we get to find out who is going in. And they end up picking Kailah and Jenna. And I was kind of surprised that Jenna wanted to go in, but we'll get to this after.
Okay.
So, first matchup...
I have a theory, so we'll circle back.
For sure. So, first matchup was Casey versus Kailah, and let's be honest, Casey just waxed her. Like, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And someone... Oh, do you know who it was? It was Josh. Because I was like, Josh, you're a moron. I think Josh said, I'm really surprised with how well Casey did against her. Or how dominant Casey was against her. Or no, sorry. I'm misquoting Josh, and I don't want to misquote him and then make fun of him. I think what he said was, I was really surprised with how well Casey did. And I thought, why are you surprised that a tackle football player is pretty good at lifting medicine balls?
Yeah.
Like, why would you be surprised by that?
We should say the competition was called Bombs Away, and essentially they had to stand in a dumpster.
Yep.
And the bombs, the air quotes bombs, were just medicine balls of different sizes.
Yeah.
And Casey is very fit, and Kailah is fit too, but Kailah is lean.
Yeah.
Casey is muscular. This is the perfect competition for Casey. Like you said, what is Josh talking about?
Yeah, I messed up. It wasn't Josh, it was D. Same thing.
Well, still. Same tier of intelligence.
My bad. I apologize to Josh. I take back the one bad thing I said about you, but everything else that I said bad about you in the episode, I meant what I said. But D, I'll say the same thing to you. What are you talking about? That you underestimated Casey? Made no sense, but here we are.
And then Jenna versus Anissa.
Yes.
Very close. I actually counted. Anissa won by only 7 balls.
Yeah.
And early on, Jenna was winning
for sure
by a lot. And people were saying oh shit, Jenna's about to ace Anissa. Maybe we should just let Jenna be a basket case about her relationship with Zach and stop putting her in, because she's just going to ace people
and the
over and over again.
The key to this challenge too was obviously it was about endurance and strength, but more so endurance and your decision making in terms of lifting the heavier balls first, because once you get towards the end, you probably don't want to be lifting those heavier medicine balls. And I think Casey did a really good job. She just got to a point where she was cooking and just you could see her just tossing. It looked like she was just tossing them over her shoulder. It was so easy towards the end. And I think Jenna might have ran out of gas, whereas Anissa is obviously stronger than Jenna, which was a help here. And as long as your endurance is up, Anissa was able to pull out the victory. And I was surprised. I thought Jenna was, at one point, especially how they cut it together, I thought that Jenna was going to win. But Anissa, the elimination queen.
I do want to point something out that Anissa did that none of the other women did that was smart. Anissa did 2 things intelligently. The first thing was when she hugged Casey after Casey won, she's like, how heavy are the balls? She got
I didn't notice
intel.
That. Okay.
And Anissa was the only one to throw the medicine balls out of the lower lip of the dumpster. Everyone else was throwing them over the sides, which were higher.
Good call.
And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but there was how many balls did you say were in those?
No, there were 100. They said there were 100 balls.
So if you have to do that motion 100 times and you're saving yourself a foot, at least on 50 of the balls, that helps in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, if you're cutting down the height that you're doing in half, in comparison to the other person, that adds up over the 100 balls, right? So for sure. Totally right. Good catch there. Good catch for sure.
Thank you. Lucas Wyatt wants to know, or he suggests, that Kailah and Jenna quit. And I think we both have theories about what was going on here. So let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so this is what I was going to say about Jenna, right? I called it a couple weeks ago when, it was the whole decision-making process and when she threw herself in. And for a multitude of reasons, TJ would have been pissed. I'm sure producers would have been pissed. She didn't throw it. She ended up beating Tori. And I think that, she wasn't going to throw it blatantly. And she did try, and she did win. But even at the time, I said, oh, now watch Jenna lose next week. Well, the next elimination comes around, and despite her continuously saying, I don't want to go in, I want to be here, they still threw her in, even with Nany being a part of it. Like, it all just made no sense. It all just seems way too convenient. And then Kailah, for whatever reason, wanting to leave right after Bear, the whole Bear relationship thing made no sense. Like, the parts that we saw anyways. But her, here's Bear's ring. And as soon as she mentioned the ring that Bear gave her, I was like, I hope she loses. But the way that it played out, it makes it seem as if both of them were just like, yeah, we got shit to like manage back home, and we'll give it a go. But yeah, might as well just both go in now. And if we go home, we go home. And I could see Kailah, because we saw Nany's frustrations, not Kailah's frustrations with Jenna. So you could see a scenario in which Kailah says, no, I'll go in with you. So if we both go in, at least then it doesn't seem like we're both throwing it. But we went out together. Something stupid like that.
I agree with everything you said, but the thing that like really caught my attention was Kailah had a quiet episode. Mm-hmm. We did not, aside from I guess Josh approaching them at the very start, we did not see a scene where the Holy Trinity spoke game.
For sure.
And yet you see a member of the Holy Trinity, Nany, put her two friends in, and they both lost. No tears, like hugs, but not like big emotional hugs.
Nope.
It was all that to me says Nany, and like I'm sure Nany said to Wes and like to everyone else in the room, listen, my girls want to go home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of having to like talk them back into this every day.
Their head's
like,
not in it.
Let's put them in and see what happens.
Their head's not in it. And I think it's one of those things where being in the bunker was really depressing. And I think it affected people in a different way. And maybe, just maybe, if it was in a different scenario where, you had the pool lounging going on and all that stuff, it might have been easier to just kind of chill and relax as opposed to being in this bunker, right? I think that probably made it a little bit different. To where it's like, you know what, I just want to go in, and if I win, cool, but if I lose, whatever. And with that mentality, you're going to lose, right? As opposed to people who are like, I want to go in and I'm going to win. And I think that's kind of what we saw play out. Now, did they want to go home? I agree with Lucas. I think they probably wanted to go home.
Yeah. I have to ask you, though, who killed it for you this week?
Who killed it in this episode? This is going to be weird. This is going to sound weird, but I'm going to say Rogan.
Oh.
And it's because I don't normally rep Rogan at all, but I just agreed with everything that he did in this episode. And, he's laying low on the drama side publicly, but he was very honest with Dee in terms of, no, I'm not going to help you do this, right? And he's smart enough to realize if she could do this to Jenny, then she could do it to him. Smart recognition from him. But then also take that information and have it benefit him by going to Jenny, who's a stronger competitor anyways, who you'd probably want to be aligned with, and, flipping that back onto Dee. It was just a smart play. And then his great one-liners in the middle of the fight. Which, as we mentioned, there wasn't much that actually went on in this episode, so his timely lines were great and well received. So I'm going to say that Rogan killed it in this episode, whereas we all know who the LVP would be if we were naming that, but we've gone through that.
I think we're pretty clear who the LVP is, you're right.
For sure.
But I'm going to say my MVP is Corey.
Oh, okay.
For a lot of the same reasons that you shouted out Rogan. Mm-hmm. But Corey, he's been winning some daily eliminations. He's a good team player. Mm-hmm. I've never seen Corey have his head screwed on so right.
Yeah.
He's distancing himself from Nelson without upsetting Nelson. He's having great political conversations with like DJ Mel. He recognizes that the biggest threat in the house to him and his alliance is Johnny and Wes, but he's not antagonizing them yet.
Yeah.
Right? He's doing a great job of being observant, being competitive, but not getting on anyone's radar.
For sure.
If Corey won this season, I would not be surprised.
Ooh. It's going to be interesting how this plays out. Next week's going to be super interesting, the guys' elimination, for sure.
Yeah. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander, and of course, thanks to the people, as John mentioned earlier, for rocking with us on iTunes and SoundCloud and YouTube. Really appreciate it. You guys tuning in and watching the videos. And, you know, some people might not be aware, but you can sit now in 2020, as we're all sitting in quarantine and finding new ways to be entertained. But you can sit now in 2020, just talk into your remote and say You Killed It podcast, YouTube, and watch us on your TV. Just like you'd watch any other show. And that's kind of cool.
For those of you that like don't actually go to our YouTube channel, because of like this quarantine life and the way that we've been able to structure our work schedules, you actually get to see us talking. Like, we are rolling video.
It's a thing.
So like it's not like you actually get to see our handsome faces. How lucky for you. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jchidleyhill. And until next week, this was You Killed It.
You Killed